Hi, I'm Bee. Today I'm gonna make this adorable fox felt hoop art project. I mean, look at that floofy little fox face. It's so ducking cute. Let's get started. Unless you count cutting and gluing felt sheets together in elementary school, I have never worked with felt before, and I definitely have never worked with loose, fluffy felt before. I can't wait to try something new. When I turned over the package, I noticed there was a list of additional supplies needed. Uh-oh. Thankfully, I have something that I can use in place of everything that's on this list, except for the felt piece. Since I've never worked with loose felt before, I have no idea if this felt piece is going to be instrumental to the needle felting process. Hopefully, I'll be able to use a different piece of fabric in its place. The first thing I do after opening the package is take a quick look at the supplies provided. This needle felting kit comes with a plastic hoop, a needle and a crown, a felting needle, some shiny thread, some embroidery floss, a bunch of loose felt, and embroidery fabric template and instructions. The instructions state that the needle is very delicate and that I'll need a foam felting block to protect the needle from any hard surfaces. There is also another warning, if you hold the needle at an angle, it's gonna break the needle. I continued to read until I found the purpose of the felt. It's just to cover up the back, thank goodness. I'll be able to use any kind of scrap fabric to close up the back. As I'm putting the template into the hoop, I'm admiring the differences between this plastic hoop and a wood hoop. I've never worked with a plastic hoop before, and I didn't realize they have this projection on the outside hoop that fits into a notch on the inside hoop. It was a lot easier to put the fabric in place with this type of hoop than it was with a wooden hoop, which surprised me because wooden hoops are classic. I personally still like the aesthetic of the wooden hoop, but the practicality of this plastic hoop intrigues me. I may have to buy more in the future. I don't own a foam block, but I do have this foam paper that I'm able to fold over multiple times and fit in the bag to act as a foam cushion for the needle. I figured that this should be good enough since its whole purpose is just to stop the needle from hitting something hard. When I touch the felting material, I'm noticing a burning sensation in my fingers, so I'm thinking I might be allergic. Maybe there's some wool in this. Whatever this fluffy stuff is made of, I'm gonna need some gloves. After that, I start following the instructions using the felting needle and a ball of fluff that you've pulled away from the bigger clump of fluff. And you pierce straight up and down, and the felting needle has these little notches in it that kind of grabs onto the fibers of the felt and helps pull it through the fabric. Unfortunately, in under 1 minute, my felting needle broke. They did not lie when they said it was a delicate needle. I guess that's why they had the warning on it. Oops. Well, duck. What am I gonna do now? At first I tried to use the tip of the needle, but after a few moments I realized that's not gonna work. I started thinking of other ways to connect the fluff to the template, and I consider stitching around it in a spiral type pattern, but then I was worried that the fluff may fall off when I hang this up, and since I'm allergic, I really don't want these little floofs flying around. Then I considered gluing it on, but again, I was worried that the top layer of the floofs was gonna fall off, and ultimately I didn't think that was gonna work out. So I decided to go investigate my craft drawers to see if there was some inspiration. Thankfully, when I opened my sewing drawer, I realized that I still have fleece left over. I have pink and white. Pink can be the orange of the fox, and the white can obviously be the white part of the fox. And then I can use embroidery thread for the rest of it. And I think that this can turn out really cute. And this way, I won't have to wear gloves. So I get rid of the broken needle and those fluffy floofs and go to grab what I think I'm going to need. I grab white fleece, black fabric, pink fleece, black, white, pink, and a blue gradient of embroidery floss, my embroidery needle tube that contains my needles and my needle threader, and I keep the rest of the pieces of the original kit around. I cut out the black fabric into a square to use as the base to replace the current template. I'm going to use white embroidery floss to make the snowflakes, so I'm going to use the black fabric to provide contrast so that way the snowflakes really pop. To transfer the pattern from the original to the black fabric, I decided to try a new technique, and that is to put chalk on the backside of the original template, put that on top of the black fabric, and then use the back of a pen to trace around the outline so that way it will transfer that chalk onto the black fabric. Then once the chalk is on there, I can take my white gel pen, I can make those lines a lot sharper. Now I want to cut out the part of the fox that's going to be the color part of the fox's fur. I use that same technique to transfer onto the pink fleece, only instead of using white chalk, I use a red chalk, and then I use a black Sharpie instead of the white gel pen just for added contrast. I make sure that when I am defining the outline with the black Sharpie that I'm doing outside of the original chalk lines because I can always make it smaller, but I can't make it bigger without having to recut the whole fabric again. Since the white part of the fox is basically just a rounded triangle, I decide to freehand that to its general shape. Now that I have both pieces cut, I play with their position on top of the black fabric, and I realize that the white gel pen is going to show through. So I just flip the fabric over, and I'm just going to use the black as a base and not worry about a template on that base fabric. I check my sizing of the pieces by placing the hoop over the top, and I realize that I need to trim the pink a little bit to make it fit. First, I cut it to add the fur lines like there was on the original base, but I didn't really like how that looked, so I decided I'm going to embroider some minimalistic fur lines once I get to the embroidery stage. I decided to use the full embroidery floss, all 6 threads, to stitch a single stitch all along the entire border because the aesthetic that I'm going for is a very chunky and noticeable stitch. I did this first for the white and then for the pink to create the base of my fox's shape. On the pink, I did add a few of those zigzags to create that furring detail that was on the original template. Because large pieces of this hoop are going to be fabric and not embroidery, I decided to tie off the back ends of every stitch that I did. This way, the embroidery is unlikely to be undone by accident. Next, I add some zigzag stitches along the ears, adding a triangle surround for definition. I think that looks really cute. I decided to make the nose using a full embroidery floss, and this is just going to give it more weight versus if I had just done single threads. But because I wanted the eyes to be more delicate and less weighted, I ended up splitting that black floss into 3 threads a piece so that way I can make more delicate stitches. Because I split the floss, I was worried that if I drew a guideline, it would be too thick and that you would be able to see it from under the floss. So I decided to freehand these. It does make them a little bit imperfect, but I think it really works with the aesthetic that I'm going for. Now it's time for the scarf. I'm going to use that blue gradient thread to create kind of an ombre look. It's an easy way to add some detail and some extra interest without having to do that extra work. And usually if I can think of a way to make it easier on myself, I'm gonna do it. This fox is not gonna be perfect. Now, could I have spent hours upon hours creating the perfect fox and making it super symmetrical and to add in that golden spiral and use all of the artistic tools that I have to make the most perfect thing I've ever made in my life? Yeah, I could do that, but I think that's gonna take the fun out of it. The whole point of this is to relax and just have a good time. I decided my scarf needed some tassels, so I just used the end of a highlighter to create some loose loops. Looking at this now, I still think I need a little sparkle and maybe a little pizzazz. So I take that gold thread that was provided with the original kit and I stitched some gold lines into the scarf to add a little bit more detailing. Then I wrapped the remaining gold thread around a clothespin. This way I can hang it up on my pegboard to use in future projects. This original kit also came with a gold crown, so I did play with the idea of adding it on there, but I honestly don't think it goes with the aesthetic that I'm going for. I added in the snowflakes with the white embroidery floss in the same general locations that the snowflakes were recommended on the original template, and then closed the back of the project up. In the future, I will not be purchasing any more floofy felt projects because of the reaction I had to that floofy fluff and because of the delicate nature of that needle. Yeesh. But I absolutely adore how this project ended up. It was definitely an adventure. I'm already making plans to make more with this same process, using a fleece or fabric base for the different shapes and then adding the embroidery details on there. So if you like that style, you can definitely look forward to more projects like that in the months to come. If I were to plan this project from the beginning, I may have played with different patterns to use on the fox's pink layer just to add a little bit more detail to that fur. I also might have tried to figure out a way to add some blushy cheeks or a cute little smile, or instead of using the white embroidery floss to create the snow, maybe I would have found some shimmery beads to make that snow sparkle just a little bit more. But overall, this little winter fox has found a place in my heart. If this project inspired you to create your own project, I would love to see it. You can tag me in either Facebook or Instagram. If you like this video, you should check out my embroidery butterfly video. It's so cute.